Welcome to Talking Hoosier Baseball. We are recording this on Monday, March 9th, 2026. I am Carl James, joined by Chris Feeney, Zach Horwitz, and Cassidy Palmer. With last week's midweek versus Northern Kentucky canceled, the Hoosiers were focused on opening Big Ten play at home against a struggling Washington team. Friday was a typical Friday in college baseball. Both starting pitchers shoved, and IU's bullpen held on for a 4-2 victory. For the rest of the weekend, IU struggled at the plate, losing 9-2 on Saturday and stranding 12, losing 13-4 in the rubber match on Sunday. Usual Sunday starter Jackson Bergman was skipped this week while recovering from illness. The Hoosiers did have the tying run on base in the 8th inning before hitting into one of a pair of bases loaded inning-ending double plays on the day. So, as usual, we'll kind of start off with Cass. What statistical points of interest do you have this week?
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Uh, this is the first time I took a look at kind of season as a whole, in addition to some weekly breakouts. We're still, again, I say it, start of every season, we're still in small sample size territory, but we're starting to get into enough where we can see some trends popping up across the month-ish of the season. Um, and one of the things I wanted to dive into, given what my eyeballs saw this weekend, was the sheer number, not just of double plays, but exceedingly inopportune double plays. Uh, Looking at situations with a runner on third and less than two outs on the season, almost a quarter of those at bats, taking out the walks, HBPs, sac flies, stuff like that. Just looking at the at bats, almost a quarter of those at bats have been double plays of some variety. There were a couple of tough luck, hard hit line into double plays there, but uh, on on the weekend against Washington, that number went up to 43% were of those runner at third and fewer than two outs were involved in double play. Uh, when you add strikeouts in those sacrifice situations where just get it deep enough into the outfield and someone will come home, uh, the team is currently on the season striking out or hitting into a double play in almost half of those at bats, about 46%. They actually didn't strike out in any of those scenarios this past weekend. It was all double plays, but over the last couple of weeks, there are some scenarios of like last week, 64% of of those at bats with a runner on third and fewer than two out were either a strikeout or a double play. That's not great math. And those are even smaller sample size than normal. On the season as a whole, we're sitting at 33 at bats with runner on third and fewer than two outs. So, small sample size, you can get some wonky numbers, but we're getting enough there that it's slightly concerning. I don't know if it's bad luck. I don't know what it is with those double plays, but we are on the wrong end of the double play magnet at the moment and would really like to see that lighten up a little bit. Um, Kind of on top of that, compounding it this past weekend, the team hit just 160 with runners in scoring position. And and that's rarely going to do it over the course of a weekend. Uh, on the season, the team's hitting 310 with runners in scoring position. That's a pretty good metric. That's something we want to continue to see. But that 160 and those those double plays over the last couple of weeks, those are, I'm going to call them orange flags. We're not to full on red flag territory, but it's not a great number. So we'll see how we go over the next few weeks. Again, it could just be straight up fluky luck that those double plays are happening at the worst times ever. We'll see as we get some more games in if it becomes a trend and not just a an interesting fluke. Uh, so that's the stats I looked at this week. Uh, Chris, who got your red belts this week?
Obviously, it is not easy to give out red belts when we go from Friday night to the rest of the weekend losing 22-6. Okay. All the leaders for the red belts happened on Friday night. And then you think, okay, what's going to happen Saturday? What's going to happen Sunday? Will there be a better catch? Will there be a better pitcher? Will there be a more important hit? No, in all three accounts. Because the games were just, I mean, for lack of better terms, they're just lopsided. Yeah, we were close for the Sunday game. We actually had like the tying run up at the eighth, which I kind of forgot when we end up seeing the final score. But, I mean, 22-6 for Saturday and Sunday against the team that hadn't scored their first, Zach was telling us they were like, it took 4 games for them to get a run. So, yeah, all the 2 out of the 3 of the Red Belts showed up in 1 inning. Gavin Siebel entered the game in the 7th inning. Jeff Mercer decided to go to him after Tony Newbeck's 6th-inning appearance. Gavin decides to strike out the side in the 7th, strike out the next guy in the 8th. Yeah, there was an error, a hit by pitch or something after that, but then he gets another fly out to end it. This is what we're talking about. Siebel and I have the same ERA, 0, okay? But he's thrown 13 2/3 innings and has 15 strikeouts, and I haven't done anything. So it's really impressive what Siebel has done. He's going to get the Joey Donato Award for the week. And in that 7th inning, Jeff Mercer also entered Cole Decker in the game. And basically that's all we needed for the next 2 innings. Because like I said, Siebel struck out 4, and then there were 2 fly balls to left. Now, one got caught up in the wind. Yeah, he got twisted and turned around, but he made sure. Cole Decker made sure he made that grab. And then for the 3rd out, a little funky off the bat, but he came in and he secured it. So to me, those were the most important defensive plays of the weekend. So he gets the Tony Butler Award. As far as the offensive award, the Alex Dickerson, there was only really 2 choices in my mind, and I went with Landon Fry because he drove in the go-ahead run in the 6th inning on Friday night. Jake walked, Fry doubled him home. Now it's 3-2, right? Yeah, let me see. I think it was Koski drove in the next run, but Fry's the one who gave us the lead. So Landon Fry's going to get our offensive, Cole Decker gets our defensive, and Gavin Siebel gets our pitching red belt of the week. Now we're going to send it over to Carl to check out the Big Ten.
Yes, the Big Ten. First week of the Big Ten is always a little light. A lot of teams are given a bye for that first week because frankly it's the easiest time to schedule non-con opponents. But 10 of the 17 teams were in action. And of course, we've been talking about Indiana and Washington. The others were, best way to describe it, were very chalky. If you go to our Big Ten pick'em for week 1, you will notice that we were mostly right, other than Chris taking a stab at the Spartans, who did not come through. They got swept by Nebraska. So
but the first game went into extra innings, Carl.
Okay.
As a victory, I'm taking that.
Other than that, this was very chalk. There's nothing really interesting to see. Southern California swept Illinois, and they have now entered the top 25 for D1. They're the number 25 team in the country, as they still have not lost a game yet. USC is undefeated right now. As we said, Nebraska swept Michigan State. Oregon took 2 of 3 at Purdue. Purdue won the Saturday game. Ohio State gave it a valiant effort. Actually had a 5-0 lead halfway through the Sunday game. but ended up getting swept by number one UCLA in Columbus. That was last week. Our upcoming week is is a full week. We've got a full slate. Only one team on break this time. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit more about Indiana taking a trip to Oregon, but the ones that'll be involved in our picks is Iowa at Penn State, Michigan's traveling to number one UCLA, Michigan State is traveling to Rutgers, Minnesota at Illinois. That's a couple teams that are sort of, are they for real? um, I don't I don't knock Illinois for getting swept by USC, not the way USC is playing right now. Um, Ohio State at Washington, Purdue at Maryland. That one I think will be interesting. And USC is coming to Chicago to play Northwestern. Is anyone ready to talk about their picks for this week?
I have mine ready, Carl. I don't know if
Okay,
anybody else does.
go for it, Chris.
All right. Well, let's see. I took 4 road teams. So I'm going to go with Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, and USC. So those are my 4 road teams. And then for the home
You're
teams,
picking against number one UCLA here.
I am
Yes.
because Michigan impressed me that first weekend.
All right.
I'm taking it. You never know. I'm taking a shot. And then for the home teams, the hardest one for me to pick Purdue versus Maryland. I just don't like either one of these teams. But you got to take one. So I took Maryland. I took Washington. I'm figuring the catcher will probably hit 3 more home runs. So they'll do well there. And if they can score that many runs in a weekend, maybe we lit a fire under them apparently. And then I've got Rutgers for my last home team. So we got Iowa, Michigan, Rutgers, Minnesota, Washington, Maryland, and to stay undefeated, I'll take them for the sweep, USC.
So I also have 4 road teams, but I have some different ones. I'll take Iowa at Penn State. I'll take UCLA at home. I don't think I'll ever pick against the number one team in the country for the entire season, but that's how I rack up my wins, Chris. This is why I was number one last year. I won this thing.
You did, but we'll see. Michigan, you never know.
So with that, though, I will take the last place team in the Big Ten, Michigan State, right now, who's 0-3. I'll take them to go into Rutgers and win. I'll take Minnesota on the road as well. They're playing at Illinois, Washington over Ohio State, Maryland at home against Purdue, and then I'll take USC at Northwestern.
Okay. See, I'm a lot more home team geared this week. I am taking Iowa almost simply because they're playing Penn State. It took an extra inning for them to avoid a series loss at home to Lindenwood. So I'm not sold on them yet, but against Penn State, I'm taking them. Kind of like with Zach with UCLA, and honestly, with all of the West Coast teams in the pick'em games, I'm kind of largely erring toward the West Coast teams until they give me a reason otherwise, or they're playing each other. So I'm going UCLA. These next two, in my initial glance at them, I had these two marked as toss-ups because they are both MSU and Rutgers are back-to-back in RPI, and Minnesota and Illinois are back-to-back in RPI. And so these are 2 games that statistically these series should be very close. In both of them, I am using a weighted coin to toss, and I'm giving it to the home teams in both of them, both Rutgers and Illinois, simply because they're the home team. If Michigan State and Minnesota were the home teams, I would have gone that way. I'm going with Washington. See my previous comment. I'm going to take Maryland over Purdue, mostly because they're home, and USC over Northwestern, even if they do have to cross multiple time zones.
All right. Well, mine aren't going to vary too much from Cass's. I'm going to pick Iowa at Penn State, UCLA. Yeah, I'm not picking against the West Coast right now. Uh, I pretty much had the same thoughts Cass did. I neutral site would be really hard, but I'm going to take Rutgers and Illinois at home, particularly Illinois. Illinois plays really well in Champaign. They're really hard to beat in Champaign, as we found out last year. Um, yeah, Washington. I am going to take Purdue. Um, I'm that's going to be. I'm going to step out a little bit and say that's my road pick is going to be Purdue. It's usually my Achilles heel in one way or the other. So, uh, and then yeah, USC. I would like Chris. I would pick them to sweep very confidently if we did have some sort of sweep kicker. I would go that route there.
Everyone who took Maryland should be very happy right now. Because if Carl takes Purdue, they lose. If he bets against them, they win. It's been going on for 5 years. So I'm glad you took Purdue this week, buddy.
So we will see. Obviously, this first week was an absolute disaster for the non-West Coast. The fact that they opened it up with all West versus traditional Big Ten. And now three of them were chalk, IU and Washington clearly was not. And I would say even from watching the series and seeing them in person, that was a series IU should have won. And that was that was a problem. It was
Can you
just
really say that now that we should have won that? We got killed.
the there's no excuse for not being able to hit that weak pitching. That pitching was weak all weekend. They did not they had one guy that touched 91 all weekend. There is no excuse.
If
I'm
we would have
sorry.
blown 2 games, if we would have like screwed something up and messed it up at the end, or like they just beat
Sorry.
us, man. They
I
just
I
beat us
I
2 straight days.
Chris, I'm not saying that's not the case, but I'm saying there's no excuse for Indiana to have not scored 25 runs that weekend. That's what I'm saying.
There were
And
back-to-back days where Carl and I have said Indiana might score double digits today, and it was the complete opposite. When we actually got into the
Double
game.
digits for the weekend?
Per the game, like there was
I'm saying I don't think we got 10 runs altogether.
yeah, there was nothing those pitchers. I mean, yes, they were locating relatively well, and they were locating better than they had in the past because I'd seen some clips from the past. I'll grant that, but 4 runs, 2 runs, 4 runs against this offense, no.
Oh, we did get 10.
This offense was not executing, and that was the problem. And they had pitches to hit, and they didn't hit them. That's the story of the weekend for me. Is Indiana's offense failed to show up. They scored more against North Carolina, who has a much better pitching staff. This is just
Yeah, but it's not like we could get any outs either. I mean, how many?
I'll get into this when we have our discussion here, but Indiana on the weekend was six
Maybe
for
they seem like the better
49.
team. I don't know.
Indiana was 6 for 49 with runners on base. Anytime they did get a hit, they never really scored. So there were no
well,
big hits. There were no, besides Landon Fry, like you gave
if
the red belt to Chris. I think besides that swing, that double down the line, there was no clutch hits the whole weekend.
if what we saw continues, if they don't only have 2 starters, which may happen, you may get one of the starters may get hurt. That's always a possibility. There's not enough pitching depth. Now, if you'd had Bergman, Sunday would have been, I think, a very different story. But
But
again,
it was close.
you have to be ready to cover it because everybody gets pitching injuries. So, and if the hitting continues like this down the road, I completely agree with you, Chris. But up until this point, Indiana's hitting should have been the difference maker in this series, and it wasn't. So,
I mean, maybe we'll see that Washington is better than we thought they were, but
I don't see that they are. I really don't. I don't see how that pitching staff. I watched them. None of those pitches were that impressive to me.
Mm.
They just weren't. We've been watching good pitching. We saw better pitching down at Western Kentucky. We saw significantly better pitching at North Carolina. This
Wow,
was,
North Carolina had some dudes. No, that's for sure.
and IU scored more runs than they did against this Washington club.
Mhm.
Again, I don't buy that this was Washington was just crazy good this weekend. They weren't. Uh, IU just didn't hit.
Let's hope it sparks something in them, and,
Yeah,
and because
and the volume of runs in both games, decisions were made to allow more runs to be scored as far as the pitching goes in order to save pitching for subsequent games. Um, those decisions were made. IU does this a lot, and it inflates ERAs. In fact, I will put out an exercise. I was going to do this in the group discussion, but since we're going there anyway, we'll just might as well talk about it. What do we think is the average number of runs? Not the average, excuse me. The median number of runs that IU has allowed so far this season. So right in the
average.
middle. No,
The
the median.
median.
Right in the middle. So if you lined them all up and pick the game in the middle, how many runs have they given up in that
6.
middle game?
I was gonna say 8.
I'll
Zach?
go 7.
Oh,
4.
Over half of their games, IU has only given up 4 runs.
yep.
So this narrative that the pitching is awful, in my opinion, is wrong. They when it's bad, it gets really bad.
Really bad.
But for the most part, they're giving the offense a chance to win games. And the offense is not coming through.
Right.
That's the problem that this team has had. And I know people are going to scream and yell. Their pitching is horrible. It's always been horrible. The ERA is inflated. I'm sorry. This team's problem right now is offensive. It's not pitching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that was like you were saying, there were decisions made because the offense wasn't doing anything.
Right. And I agree. Part of that goes to depth, and you wish you had more depth. But go to the Twitter feeds of the top 10 teams in the country, particularly after midweeks, and see what the fans are saying about those teams. Because everybody does this. Everybody has an occasional game where they give up 13 runs.
I was sitting there after Friday night. Friday night was a 4-2 game. Indiana wins. I think they didn't hit the ball well. Like you don't usually win scoring 4 runs. I guess Carl said the median is 4, but 4 runs doesn't win you that many games. But in this case, you got such good pitching on the Friday night that you could score 4 and get away with it. But we were saying they need to flip this in the next day or the next 2 days. They've got to score, and obviously that didn't happen. Scored what was it? Just a handful of runs, a couple runs the next 2 days.
Yeah, 6 runs total.
Yeah.
Yep. And by the way, to the point of the offense, 4 is also the median for how many they've scored in those games.
And we're about a 500 team, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a little, yeah. The average is obviously a little bit more lopsided. I think the average is 5.9 runs scored versus a 6.8 allowed. But that was a pretty significant distinction going from 6.8 to 4 of a mean to a median of 4. And to me, it's the median's important because that's the number of games how many games have you given your offense a chance to win? And that's where they're struggling right now. I mean, they've been giving that to the offense. The offense hasn't been taking advantage of that. So I do have very briefly a preview for the Wright State game, which is Tuesday at 5 p.m. You're probably listening to this Tuesday morning, so that might be tonight. There's a chance for some rain. We don't know if there's going to be any adjustments, but heat-wise, it's going to be nice and warm. And if the rain holds off, this game should take place easily. Wright State is typical Wright State. They've played a really, really tough schedule. And like IU, they don't have a ton of wins up at this point. Although they have some really nice wins, including although they didn't win the series, they did win. They did score more runs than Tennessee this past weekend at Lindsey Nelson, including shutting them out yesterday. So this team has done some impressive things. They've only played one midweek. That didn't help because the guy who pitched most of the innings in that midweek was the guy who pitched yesterday's game and pitched 7 innings. So we know we're not seeing him. From a pitching perspective, my assumption is it's going to be this trio of freshmen that have all seen relatively significant innings and are well rested enough to see this. And they all have decent numbers. Cooper Gilkerson is 1.42 ERA. And then a couple of guys, Michael Zielinski at 4.26 and Keegan Holstrom at 4.1 ERA. So they've got some freshmen that have been able to keep teams from scoring. And I would expect those guys are probably who we're going to see. Nobody really stands out for them offensively in a big way. They've only got 4 guys in the roughly 800 range in OPS. They're led by Cy Turner. He's almost 1,000 OPS and a 366 batting average. He's their senior left fielder. Their pop comes from their junior first baseman, JT Peltier, and he's got 3 home runs on the season. And that's who to look for against Wright State tomorrow. Wright State, the former team of our coach, Jeff Mercer. And now Zach is going to do the big preview, which is the upcoming road conference series at Oregon.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. Well, this weekend certainly will not get any easier. Oregon ranked today all the way up to number 14. They're 12-3 on the season, 2-1 in the conference after a weekend win at Purdue. RPI is up to 30 now, and they opened the year 9-0. They allowed just 21 runs in those 9 games, including back-to-back shutouts against Youngstown State, but then followed it up with a really successful weekend at the Las Vegas Classic. They had 2 wins over Arizona and Vanderbilt. They have 2 midweek games before hosting Indiana. That's against Xavier, both of those. So a team that Indiana has already gone in and beaten. So we'll see how those results match up. But Oregon has the top hitter in the Big Ten Conference, Drew Smith, their third baseman. He is 34 for 47 on the year. He's hitting 511, 23 RBIs. And then the right fielder, Angel Laya, he has now earned Big Ten Freshman of the Year, Freshman of the Week twice in the first 4 weeks. He's up to 370, 2 home runs he hit on Sunday against Purdue. And if you watch any of that game that Indiana played against LSU and you saw Zach York, the big guy who hit the home run, which may have not been a home run, but it was called the home run. You have not seen Dominic Hellman on Oregon. He is 6'6", 300 pounds. He's been smoking the ball. The guy is absolutely massive. So that's someone to look out for. So Drew Smith, the top hitter, Angel Laya, probably maybe the best freshman in the Big Ten, and then Dominic Hellman, who can totally swing for the fences. And on the pitching end, Indiana struggled against Washington. These guys are much better than Washington is. 3 right-handed starters yet again that they'll see for the second consecutive week. Will Sanford, he has a 0.92 ERA in almost 20 innings for the Ducks. Right-handed pitcher Colin Clark as well. He leads the team in innings pitched with 24.2. He has a 2.5 ERA, and he has a 27-4 strikeout to walk ratio. So these guys, Indiana's offense is going to have to wake up and try to get these guys out of the game, not lengthen them out. And one more starter for them, Cal Scolari, who's a transfer from San Diego. He's the team strikeout leader with 28. He's a 2.3 ERA. So as you can see, all 3 of these starters extremely successful so far. But again, same as this last weekend where the best bullpen guys are right-handers. They have Ryan Featherson and Tanner Bradley. Those are their go-to guys. Indiana will see them likely twice as long as the games are in hand. They're close enough for those guys to be in there. But Oregon, they play their games at PK Park. They hosted the Super Regionals in 2023. Super nice stadium, and it'll be really cool to see a new place for Indiana to play. And I'll do a notable alumni for Chris, New York Met, David Peterson.
Oh, I remember when we drafted him. Yep.
First round.
First round, we drafted him. Look at that. And he got a big save in the 14 playoffs to help us clinch too. So he was worth the pick.
So that's all in Oregon. It's going to be tough. And if they couldn't beat Washington, you need to hope that they can get one at Oregon. So
We've sort of already gone through our group discussion, but I know not everyone necessarily chimed everything in they were wanting to discuss. So, Cass, I guess we'll start with you. Is there something else you wanted to add to this?
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to shout out, we've talked about how this was a rough weekend, not great Washington team. Yeah, we've kind of beat that dead horse a little bit. One of the things I wanted to shout out that I don't think we've mentioned yet is on the pitching side, Ivan Mostalski. He did a great job coming in, 2 innings, 4 strikeouts. He did give up a double, but left him right there. Didn't even let him get to third. So I did want to make sure that got brought up as, hey, if he can keep doing that, that's a good sign for the depth of this bullpen. Yes.
If I can,
we've seen him. Well, we saw him. Chris and I saw him down in Western Kentucky, and it was. Mm-hmm. This is the thing. It was the same type of outing. It was just as basically just as dominant. He just comes, pounds the zone, and quickly pounds the zone, and he basically had the same impact there at Western Kentucky. So you're absolutely right about that. And I think we've heard he's gonna open tomorrow's game.
Yep.
So
right, I was gonna say
if that's a 1 inning or give him one time through the order, see how long he goes. I'll be intrigued to see how
they've been doing it 2 inning stints so far, and he just pitched on Saturday. So I would take 2. I would say 2 innings is likely.
That was my thought.
Friday night's game was what I've written about, what we spoke about last week, about piggybacking the starters. Tony Newbeck went, I believe it was 6 innings again. Seabold, 2 scoreless, and then Jackson Yarberry came in and closed that one out. But after that, Ivan Mostalski was actually the only bullpen arm besides Pete Haas, who combined for 2 outs at the end of the games. Ivan Mostalski was the only bullpen guy to not allow a run in his appearance in Saturday or Sunday's game. But as we mentioned a little earlier, I think the hitting stats is what really is the issue. And you can just look at it just based off of the numbers. They won the Friday game despite they were 4 for 19 with runners on. But you look at the next 2 days, 0 for 10 at the plate with runners on base on Saturday and 2 for 20 with runners on base on Sunday. So as a whole, that's 6 for 49 on the entire weekend, which is 122 if you look at it in a batting average. 4 for 26 with runners in scoring position. So obviously didn't have too many runners come around to score. And then as a whole, they hit 232 on the weekend. That was 22 for 95. So there's just anytime that they did get some sort of success, it never really blossomed into anything. And they didn't draw any walks really. They weren't really on the base paths much. So I think that's the biggest issue. And they're going to have to turn it around quick. Wright State can really swing it. They'll have to probably match that. While Wright State's facing Indiana's younger pitchers on Tuesday night. And then this weekend, I mean, Oregon has scored as much as really anyone in the country, and they've pitched it really well also. So it's a tough challenge. The offense is really going to have to turn it around quickly.
Yeah, I mean, we thought we were going to be coming off 3 or 2 wins going into Oregon, maybe playing with some house money. That situation changed pretty quick. Again, I mean, if it's the hitting, this isn't the team to go against to get right. It doesn't seem like. So we'll see how they do. Let's hope. I mean, hopefully we can keep these games close and lucky break here and there. You never know. Anybody can beat anybody any day. We know that.
Yeah.
Honestly, let's get one and get the hell out of there. I think that would be a huge success right now. Take that
Now,
back home.
I think it's also important to note that uh, only in the last 2 weeks has Oregon really played anybody. A huge number of these games have been against really, really bad teams. And I'm not talking Washington bad. I'm talking absolute worst of D1 type teams. So some of these inflated numbers, that's where a lot of that's coming from. Um, but to me, I mean, and it's also one of the reasons that like D1 has not ranked Oregon yet is it's like they've got to go play somebody. And I think they said they had one tournament and then they've played Purdue. Um, who
That's not going to help.
Wants to.
Well, but Purdue's starting to get some national discussion. So Purdue's actually won some pretty significant games and has gotten some eyeballs on them, and there's discussion about them being good. Now we've seen this in prior years. Now the prior years were when Wazakowski was their coach, and he's at Oregon now. So
Yeah.
One more thing I want to bring up. Carl and I were talking about this while sitting at the game the other day. Indiana in previous years, or at least I've covered this team for 2 years before this one, that when they were trailing, they could hit a home run or two to really cut back into the lead. This year, the team has only hit, the number is 11 home runs, with Jake Hanley and Hogan Denny at the top with three each. They don't have a power bat like this anymore, like they had in recent years, that you can really change the game with one swing. You only got really a couple of guys here and there that can do that. But Jake Hanley's not a guy that's swinging for the fence every time, which we've seen in years past from other guys. So I think that's a real not an issue. It's just if they can't get base hits and move guys over and bring them in, then you're gonna need some more home runs. So the identity is to get base hits, but they're not getting those so far. But we'll see what happens in the next week before I come to a bit more of a conclusion about this offense.
and this happens to offense. There's offenses, and this happens at the very highest level of the game. There are times when the best teams in Major League Baseball feel like they just forget how to hit for a week. So hopefully this is just one of those things. It was just uh, it they've seen so many different styles of pitches. And obviously hitting a baseball is hard. You put me up there, someone throws, eephus pitches and I'm gonna get blown away. I get that. Uh, it's just, but uh, and you could see to some degree some of the 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 concerns, were relayed by the coach himself, and he talked about how uh, it was a little bit more specific on Sunday, and this followed my observations too, which is they seem to be late on fastballs, and we're not talking about late on 95 mile per hour fastballs. We're talking about late
Right.
on 87, 89 mile per hour pitches, uh, and yes, I will tip the cap to Washington in the fact that they were able to mix up pitches well and pound the zone. But this offense is built to when you do pound the zone, the offense is supposed to pound the ball right back into the field and into the big part of the field, and that's what was lacking. And on I think it was on Saturday, I think the coach is really talking about the fact that they were actually it might have been on Friday that they were getting on top of breaking balls and pounding them into the ground, which goes to what Cass was talking about in double plays. Um, Not that I mean the line drive ones that were happening early in the season.
That's bad luck.
That's bad luck. But the ones recently have not been. They've been rolling over pitches onto into the ground for easy either 5-4-3, 6-4-3, or 4-6-3 double plays. Um, you know, and uh, it's just we're not squaring balls up, and it just looked to me like there were plenty of opportunities, plenty of pitches that a team like Indiana in the past would have punished. And I mean, I'm not necessarily saying they would have scored a bunch of runs. Sometimes, but the point is, we weren't even. I mean, Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't even remember a lot of loud outs.
No, not really. I felt like a lot of, I mean, I was even standing in the sun up on the third base side at the top of the railing, and I was filming a couple pitches. There's, I mean, yeah, slow ground balls or shallow pop-ups to the outfield. It just wasn't, nothing was really squared up. And Washington seemed to be doing the exact opposite. There were so many, they let off innings with doubles off the wall or hits down the line, and it just, even home runs. I mean, they have their backup catcher
Yeah.
hitting 3 home runs and a triple off the wall. Like that, I mean, it was a total flip on the offensive end for both dugouts.
Except when they perfectly placed bunts, which they did multiple
Yes,
Oh,
times.
that was
they
incredible.
did.
That was just rubbing it in
Well,
at that point.
well, it almost seems like that's maybe not the difference, but it comes down to, especially when the home runs aren't happening, those small execution details.
Yeah.
Because even looking at on Sunday, Hanley had a very solid game at the plate, except for his one at bat with runners in scoring position, which was bases loaded, no outs in the first, and he pops it up.
Yeah.
That was his one time he did not reach base all day, was in that situation. And then there's the double play that ended all of that. But
Looking in terms of positives, I did think Will Moore had a good weekend. I mean, even when the team had, I think, 4 hits, he had 2 of them at the time. I think it was in game two. There was a span from the third inning till the eighth inning that Indiana hadn't recorded a hit, and Will Moore had both of those in the third and the eighth. Aiden Krause is at the top of the lineup. He had a couple hits on the Friday night game. Caleb Koski, I mean, he's put the ball in play. It's not like Landon Fry had that big hit down the line on Friday. Jake Hanley had a home run. He had a multi hit outing. Hogan Denny's been smoking the ball. And Cooper Malamazian, I gotta say, on Friday he was 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. He looked lost at the plate, and he really bounced back. And he looked more like himself, squaring up a ball to take an early lead in the first inning of the Saturday game, and then obviously fell off from there as a team. But I think that if they put these individual performances together, that's what's going to change the outlook on this season. But they need to do that quickly because you don't want to fall behind in the Big Ten, where the schedule is not exactly getting easier through this stretch.
Yeah, particularly if teams like Minnesota and Purdue turn out to be the real deal. Their Big Ten schedule may be a lot tougher than they were originally thinking. All right, Chris, what do we have on the World Baseball Classic and spring training?
Well, somebody who's not having a hard time hitting, Kyle Schwarber. He's hitting 500. We all saw the big bomb he hit. He's got 2 RBIs, 3 walks, 4 runs scored. Just walked as Zach was speaking. It's first and second. I think there's 2 outs or something. They're in the bottom of the first against Mexico. But add another walk for Schwarber. And he's obviously feared by the other teams. And it's as the tournament goes on and we start playing better teams, I think, that's only going to rev him up even more because he knows who he's hitting against now. Like, even the best pitchers from Great Britain are who they are. But when he starts going against, Puerto Rico, Dominicans, maybe Japan, we'll see how jacked up he is even then. But he's having a great start to the tournament. A couple other alumni, which good spring weeks, Kyle Hart. He had an outing at 2 2/3, perfect outing with 3 strikeouts. Tim Herron, a perfect inning with a hold. Scott Efros, a perfect inning with 2 Ks. Nick Mitchell doubled for Cleveland when the game he got in. So a lot of our guys still getting some spring training ABs. Today for the Athletics, Jack Perkins started and Devin Taylor started as well. So that was cool. Devin wasn't able to get a knock during the game. He's still looking for that first spring training hit. I know he's going to get it soon. Perkins threw 2 2/3, 4 hits, 2 runs. these guys are just getting rolling. It is 17 days from opening day, though, believe it or not. I saw that they had on my Met site, they had a big thing of Keith Hernandez, for number 17. And I don't know. Maybe it's because we just get into the IU baseball and the college baseball starts so early. Major League opening day always seems to sneak up on me more than it used to when I was back east. But yeah, we're 17 days away from Major League Baseball opening day. We got the World Baseball Classic to get us through to that. And hopefully the Hoosiers taking a game out in Oregon for the weekend. But let's not sleep on tomorrow night, Wright State. This team, I didn't know much about them until actually the season before we got Mercer. And they made the tournament, and they really took this West Coast team late at night to like extra innings. And, it was like a 2-seed or something, or 1-seed. It was really – this team is fundamentally sound. They always pitch good when they come here. So this would be a good boost for us. Get some runs, like Carl's saying. Maybe the bats get rolling again. This would be a nice win for us to take with us in our pocket out west.
Yep. All right. I think that's good to go ahead and conclude this on that positive note. As I said, we know we all know this team's going to figure out their bats at some point. We're just hoping it's sooner rather than later. So thank you for listening to this episode of Talking Hoosier Baseball. For more on Indiana University baseball, hit up iubase.com. For Cassidy Palmer, Zach Horwitz, and Chris Feeney, I'm Carl James. See you at the BART. Oh.